Hey guys, it's Alexandra from iloveknots.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make a corner-to-corner square that says Fall Vibes. I'm going to be turning this square into a throw pillow, so this one is going to be 16 inches. But if you don't want a throw pillow, you can sew a bunch of these together to make a blanket, or you can add an eyelet row up here, put in a dowel, and make it a wall hanging. If the finished size isn't important to you, you can use any yarn that you have in your stash and the respective hook. I'm going to be using worsted weight yarn. This is Red Heart Super Saver. This is my favorite yarn to make projects for my house because it's really durable and it machine washes and dries pretty well. I'm going to be using a J10 6mm crochet hook. The hook really varies depending on your gauge, because Red Heart Super Saver yarn is a little inconsistent. Sometimes they're thinner, sometimes they're thicker, and it could be the same exact color but two different balls of yarn. So sometimes I have to use an H8 5mm crochet hook for one, and then a J10 6mm crochet hook for the other, which can be kind of frustrating and annoying, but it's important that you gauge both colors just to make sure that you're on the right track. There is a way to add another border row at the end to add some more width if you need it, but I highly recommend after row 5 you take gauge to see how close you are. This is my original chart that will be in my pattern and on my blog, so I'm not going to write on this because I still have to take pictures of it to edit the pictures. But I do have a sample here that I messed up on. As you can see, it has some marks and the numbers are all messed up, but some people will print this chart out and they will work their chart, and as they complete the rows they will just mark a line through, meaning I just completed row 2, I'm working in this direction. After row 3 you would mark it like this, I just completed row 3. You can absolutely do that. I will provide the link where you can get this chart, but I do not work from the charts. I like to work from a written pattern. So I have here on the side, I have my notes for each breakdown, and I just have like 1 cream, 2 orange, and 5 cream, and that's how you're going to see it written in my patterns. But I also provide this chart so you can do it either way. So I will not be working from this chart in this video, but I just wanted to show you how you could do it from the chart, and you do it the same exact way. So I'll just show you real quick. This one is row 4. Row 4 has 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes, and they're all cream. If you were doing row 8, it would be 1 cream box, 2 orange boxes, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cream boxes. And in a lot of the charts, I do all my charts handwritten, but in a lot of the charts where they use a program, a software program of some sort, they have the same number, like row 2's here and row 2's here. So it could be a little bit more confusing to follow. But in my charts, I only put the numbers where the row starts. So row 6 is here and it goes downward. Row 7 is here and it goes upward. So if you're following along with my chart, the box that has the number is the direction downwards or upwards that row is going to go. But I'm going to be working from my written pattern. I'm going to start in cream. I'm going to make a slip knot. I'm going to have the tail end over my fingers here. I'm going to wrap around the working yarn around my index finger 2 times. And I'm just going to hold it down here so it doesn't go anywhere. I'm going to pick up the yarn that's behind, pull it up and over the other strand, but not off my finger, and put it down. I'm going to pick up the yarn that's behind, again, pull it up over the other strand and off my finger. And now I have a loop here that I'm going to stick my crochet hook into. Then you take the yarn tail that you started with and you just pull it, and it makes that tighter. This is how I like to hold my yarn. I have it wrapped over my ring finger, and then I use this. I keep tension here and I pull it over my index finger, and I do hold my yarn differently than most, and I do this because it hurts my fingers to be all cramped up the whole entire time, like trying to be like this. So you will see me holding my yarn like this. I'm going to start making the very first box, and to make a corner to corner box in double crochet, that's what we're working in, you're going to make all your boxes the same. So we're going to start with a chain 6. That's 1. To chain, you just yarn over your hook and you pull it through the loop that's on your hook. 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 chains here. I'm going to count from right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 chains in. That's where I'm going to work my first double crochet, and these skipped chains are going to count as, technically these skip chains will be the first double crochet of the box, and the one that I'm about to work will be the second double crochet. To make a double crochet, I'm going to yarn over my hook, then I'm going to insert it into the stitch. I'm going to yarn over the hook again and pull through. Now I have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over again, pull through 2. And there's a double crochet. And you can see how these skip chains are the same height as this double crochet I made. We're going to make another double crochet into the next stitch. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the next stitch, yarn over again and pull through. We have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we have 3 stitches here, and I'm going to make one more in that last chain. Yarn over, insert hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull through. 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So now I have my very first box worked, and each box is going to consist of 4 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3 double crochets. This counts as a double crochet. 4 stitches. To make our next box, we have to increase so we can make our square grow, and we want 2 boxes here. So to begin round 2, we're going to chain 6. So each time that we increase, we're making a chain 6. And I'm going to work it exactly the same as I worked this first box. I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3, 4 chains, and I'm going to work a double crochet in there. And then remember, this skip chains here, these count as a double crochet. So then I'm going to work my 3rd and my 4th one. And you just work down the chain just like you did before. So now we have this weird looking like alligator shape. How are we going to connect it to that first box? Well, we're going to take that first box and we're going to flip it around so it's mirrored. And then we're going to be working into the top chain right there. Let me see if I can get closer. That chain right there, which is the top of that stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook under both loops that are there. You're going to see that's like a back bump, and then that's the front. Insert and complete a slip stitch by yarning over, pull through that stitch, pull through the loop that's on my hook. And now it's connected. We have two boxes here connected. But we also need one more box to complete row 2. So in row 2 we can have two boxes because we read it diagonally. So to start the next box, we're going to chain 2. This chain is going to count as a double crochet. We're not chaining 6 here because we're not increasing on the sides. We want this chain to be equal to the height of the stitches we're about to work. So here in the middle we're just chaining 2. And then I'm going to be working into a space. You see this space that's right here that's in between these two stitches? There's spaces in between the stitches. I want to work into that space around this stitch. So here's my first double crochet here. Now I'm going to double crochet into that space. I'm going to yarn over. I've yarned over here, yarn over. Insert my hook into that space. So now I have this stitch on top of my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through. I have my 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So I have now 2 stitches complete from this box. I'm going to do another double crochet into that space. Now I have 3 and I need 4 to complete a box. So my last stitch, which I've seen some patterns where you work all of them into this space. But I like to work my other one into this stitch, which is the foundation chain for that stitch that we're working over. And I like to work my last stitch into this edge because it creates a more crisp edge on my piece. And even though I'm going to put a border over it and you won't really notice any bumps, I really like to make it as straight as possible. So I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to insert my hook into those chains. That's what it is. It's the foundation chain of that previous stitch. And I'm going to complete my double crochet. And now, as you can see, it's kind of more straight than what it would be if I would have put it in here. So now I have 2 rows complete. I'm going to turn it so you can see it how I made it. This is row 1, which is 1 box, and this is row 2, which is 2 boxes. And now we're going to increase again to begin row 3. To increase on the ends, we're going to chain 6. And then we're going to work into it exactly how we did before. Count over 1, 2, 3, 4 chains, double crochet, double crochet into the next chain, double crochet into the next chain. So I have the 2 rows I previously worked. This is my new box. That is the beginning of row 3. And I want to connect it to row 2. I'm going to do it exactly the same way I did before. So I'm going to take that bottom part that I worked, the first 2 rows, and I'm going to flip it so it's mirrored. Then I'm going to find the top of that very last stitch of that box, the top of it. So if you need to count, that's 1, 2, 3, that's the 4th one. And I want to work into the very top of it. I'm going to insert my hook into that stitch, picking up both of those loops from that stitch on my hook. Yarn over, pull through that stitch, pull through the loop that's on my hook. That's called a slip stitch. And now we are connected here. So I'm going to start my next box of row 3. And we're going to start it with a chain 2. And sometimes when you're working, into these stitches that are in the middle, you can get caught on the stitches that are on the end. So my tip here is fold down that box so it's flat, and then it's easier to work so that you don't get your hook caught and pull the stitches of those other boxes. So I'm going to work in here the same way I did before. I'm going to work into that space in between the stitches, yarn over, double crochet right into that. Yarn over again, double crochet into the same space. And because we don't have that edge stitch to work like we did before, here in the middle, you're going to just work all of those stitches into that space. So I'm going to yarn over and work another double crochet. So here I have a chain 2 here, 1, 2, 3 double crochets worked into that space. And I'm going to slip stitch. I'm going to find the very top of the next box, top edge of the next box there. I'm going to insert my hook under both of those loops, yarn over, pull through that stitch, pull through the loop on my hook, and now I'm connected. And now I need one more box to complete row 3. Start with a chain 2, work 2 double crochets into that space, and now we're on the edge, so I'm going to work my last double crochet into that foundation chain from the previous row's box, the top. And now I have 3 rows complete. And how you can tell which boxes you're working, which way you're starting, it's a little bit hard to see here on the camera, but if you're looking at your piece with your beginning yarn tail here on the bottom right corner, this box, which is row 1, looks prettier than row 2's boxes because this is the back side of row 2. It's a little hard to see. Can you see it any better? This box is row 1. It looks prettier than the back side of row 2. And then row 3 looks prettier than the back side of row 2 also. So this is the right side of the fabric, this is the wrong side of the fabric, and this is the right side of the fabric. Row 3 is the right side and it matches row 1. So if you get turned around and you're not sure which row you're on or what stitch you need to do, you can just place your piece down, make sure your tail ends on the bottom, look for the pretty side on this bottom corner piece, and that's how you know that's going to be the right side of the fabric that is box number 1. And to count these, we have row 1, row 2, row 3. Row 1, row 2, row 3. Now I'm going to continue working. We need 7 rows of increases in this cream color before we can begin introducing the orange color. So to begin row 4, we're going to chain 6. Then we're going to work a double crochet into the 4th chain and into the next 2. So now we have our first box. Now we need to connect it to row 3, so we're going to flip that bottom piece. We're going to find the top edge there, which doesn't matter how you look at it, it's the top corner, and we're going to insert our hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull through that stitch, pull through the loop on our hook. Now we've slip stitched. Begin with a chain 2 in the middle. I'm folding this down so it doesn't get caught. and I'm working 3 double crochets into that space right there. So I have 2 boxes done. Now I need to join, slip stitch. I'm going to find that top edge of the next box, and I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over, pull through both of those. Then I'm going to begin the next box with a chain 2, and I'm going to work my 3 double crochets into that space. I have 3 boxes done. I need to slip stitch it. And now I need one more box. I'm going to chain 2. Since I'm on the edge here, I'm going to work 2 double crochets into that space and the last double crochet on the edge. So I want to find that foundation chain there. I'm going to yarn over, insert it in there, and complete my double crochet. And now I have 4 rows done. 4 rows. So you're going to work in the same method all the way up until you have 7 rows done. And again, how you count that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So you want to be able to count 7, and then we're going to start row 8, which will introduce the orange color. Alright, so I just finished my 7th box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can also count it the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I know it's a little bit hard to see on this background. Anyways, one thing I forgot to mention was the gauge, which I know I did mention before, but I forgot to show you how to take it. That is after row 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. I want to make sure I measure, gauge. I'm going to take this tape measure, soft tape measure, and I'm going to put it up on the edge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I want to make sure that I'm measuring all the way up to, give me a moment. You see it better? No. I want to make sure when I'm measuring here that I'm measuring, in this case I've worked past it, but here on row 5, right here, box 5, it has 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and then right here is actually the 4th double crochet, which is the bottom of this next row. So I want to make sure that I'm measuring all of that if I'm taking the gauge from 5 rows. So I'm starting at the beginning and I'm going across, and I'm actually measuring 4 inches and a quarter, which is exactly what I want to measure. Remember, I'm measuring from the left corner all the way past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes, all the way to that very last stitch. 4 1/4 is exactly what I want to measure. If you did not work all 7 of your boxes already, it's much easier to measure just from this edge to this edge. And you want to be as close to 4 1/4 as you can be. If you're a little bit off, it's not going to make a big difference. If you're quite a bit off, you're going to want to make sure you change your hook up or down accordingly. So I'm at gauge. I'm super happy with that. Now it's going to come out exactly the size that I need it to be. And we're ready to start row 8. Alright, so we are getting ready to start row 8. I had worked it, but I messed up a little bit, so I had to take it out. For row 8, we're going to introduce our second color so we can start the letters, the words. So I'm going to show you really quick what the picture looks like. We have just finished this empty box right here underneath the 8. And so for row 8, we're actually starting the bottom right corner of the S from the word vibes. So we actually want row 2 to be our right side and not row 1. So you'll notice that row 2 looks pretty and row 1 kind of looks rough because that's the back of it. That's the way you want it. You want row 2 to be the right side. So the first thing I'm going to do is make 1 box in cream because the entire project has cream around the whole entire border. So we're going to work it exactly the same, starting with a chain 6. And before I slip stitch it, I'm going to turn my bottom piece, and normally I would work with my yarn over, over it, right? But I actually want to bring the yarn under. Actually, no. I want to bring the yarn to the back because I want all my tail ends to be on one side. This makes the color change the cleanest. So again, row 2 is the pretty side, that's the right side, that's how we're going to have this facing us. and we're pulling our working tail to the back. Just drop it to the back. Insert your hook into the next stitch that you would be slip stitching into and grab your new color. So I'm just gonna leave a little tail end that I can weave in later, and I make the loop and put the loop on my hook, and I'm gonna pull that through. And it automatically elongates the loop that you just finished working with. That's because we're not working with it anymore, so it's very loose. You can just take it and pull it. So this is what normal tension looks like. You can see that there is a white chain loop right there, and then the new color. If you take that tail and you pull it even more, like pull it tight, that white chain disappears, and this color change becomes incredibly seamless, which is my absolute favorite. So the tail that you're going to weave in later, drop it to the back, pick up the working yarn, and you're going to do it exactly the same as you did before. Chain 2 and 3 double crochets into that space in the orange color. And now I'm going to slip stitch it to the next box. I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to work 3 double crochets into that box. And then I'm going to pause for a second, because this is where I'm going to rejoin the cream. But I want to go back to this where now you can see that cream color has kind of popped up a little bit. It's because we've been working on it and tugging on it and stuff. If you take that tail, that cream tail, and you just hold the fabric and pull, it'll go away. Now look at that. Completely seamless. You will not notice it. So currently we have 1 cream box and 2 orange boxes. This is my original tail that I have been using, and then I have an orange tail. Now I need a cream for this next box. It's actually going to be 5 boxes to the end in that cream. I'm not going to use the initial tail, the initial cream color, because I need that when I come back around. So now I'm going to introduce another cream. And you can do this, I just have the same ball of yarn right here. The one that I started with came out of the center, and this other tail is from the part that was wrapped around. I'm going to end up pulling like a long string of the yarn and cutting it and reattaching that yarn somewhere else, which kind of creates bobbins to work from. But if you wanted to grab another cream out of your stash, you could put that down and attach it here. It's actually easier to untangle the yarn whenever you get to that point too, but I'm just working with 2 skeins right now. So I'm going to drop my orange to the back, and then I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch, and I'm going to pick up the other side of the cream. I'm going to do it the same way. I'm going to weave this part in later, and then I created a loop, and I'm just going to put that loop on my hook and pull through. And the same thing with the orange as the cream. I'm just going to pull to tighten, drop the end that I'll be weaving in, drop that to the back, and grab the working yarn, chain 2, and now I'm going to just finish it off by working 5 cream boxes. Alright, and row 8 is done. So I have 1 cream box, 2 orange boxes, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cream boxes. I also have one cream tail, one orange tail, and another cream tail. So I have 3 tails that I'm working with right now. And all of my changes and the ends I have to weave in are on the wrong side, the back side. So for row 9, we are going to start with our chain 6, and we are going to work a total of 5 cream boxes. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cream boxes. The next box is going to be orange. So this is the side that has all of our tail ends. So instead of dropping this yarn to the back, I'm actually going to drop it to the front. Then I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch. And because this orange is right here next to it, I'm just going to use that yarn. I'm going to just pull it over and pull it through. You just want to make sure that it's not too tight, because then it'll like pull on the fabric, it'll make it like shrink up, it'll look all bunched up and stuff. So just a normal tension, just pull it over, chain 2. And now you can see that that cream color is like coming up the loop. Just pull on it, it'll go away. I have one orange box done, and now I'm going to finish this off with 3 cream boxes. So again, I'm going to take my orange, and I'm not going to drop it to the back. I'm going to pull it to the front and drop it so that all the color changes stay on one side. And I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch. So in this case, if the yarn was very close, we would just pull it over. And actually, I probably would just pull it over anyways. I would put it up like this and drop it over, and I would continue working so that I have one less end to weave in, but that can change the overall size of the yarn, of the finished piece. So I'm going to go ahead and trim it off. So I'm just cutting it so I have a long enough tail that I can weave in. And now I'm going to reattach this yarn where I'm working at right now, the same way that I did before. And I'm going to drop that tail end right here. I'm going to drop it to the front. And so now row 9 is done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cream boxes, 1 orange box, 1, 2, 3 cream boxes. Row 10, we're going to do 2 cream boxes to start with. And I'm going to drop my tail in now to the back. because that's where all my other tails are. Dropping it to the back. I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch, and I'm pulling through orange. And let's see. So the closest tail is this tiny little tail, which isn't going to work for me. And the other orange is over here, which I won't be needing because this is the bottom of the S. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this off, just like I did before. And I'm going to reattach it. If I was going to use this orange, like if I had another orange box here that I needed, instead of cutting off that tail, I would add additional tail over here, just like I did with the cream. But since this next box is going to be a cream color, I just went ahead and fastened it off. And I'm dropping that new tail of the orange to the back with the rest of them. Chain 2, work 1 box here. And drop that yarn to the back, insert into the next stitch. Okay, so the closest tail here is one that I have to weave in. The next closest tail is this one over here. And because the rest of it is going to be cream, I'm not introducing any more orange boxes in this row. I'm just going to pull this yarn over. And you just have to do it carefully so it's not too tight, and pull the fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it up to the top of the orange, as if it was like slip stitched there, and then I'm going to pull it over. And that way I can ensure that I'm not doing it too tight. So it's actually easier if you just pull it through, and then you go back and you add a little bit. So you pull on it a little bit so that it gives you enough give to work over, so it's not all scrunched up. I hope that makes sense. So I definitely don't want this to be tight, this yarn tail that I just pulled over. I don't want it to be tight like it is right now, because I need to work over it, and I need all the boxes to not be scrunched up. So now that I've pulled it through over here, I'm just going to pull on it a little bit so that I have some slack in there, so it's not too tight. And then I'll chain 2, and I'll work my double crochets. If this is too difficult, you can just fasten it off and reattach it. I just feel like that's one less end that I have to weave in. And that's actually what I do most of the time if it's just like 1 box. Sometimes if it's 2 boxes. You just have to be careful, because I made one of these once that was all kinds of misshapen and tight because I tried to carry too much. So you can see this yarn that's on the back. This is the one I pulled over. I'm going to insert my hook into that next box, and I'm just going to pick it up so that it's on top of my hook. And I'm going to complete my slip stitch. And that's going to pick it up so it's not just laying across the back, and now you're going to actually work over it and cover it up so no one will ever see that random strand on the back of your project. So when I insert my hook into this space, I have the orange stitch on my hook, and I have that white tail that I pulled through. Before I continue on, I just want to show you what it looks like. Just gonna pull this orange tight real quick. Alright, so this is what it looks like right now. And this is what the back looks like. So you don't see that pull anywhere, and the shape is still good and it's still flexible. I'm going to finish it out. You want 7 cream boxes total here on the end. So I have 1, 2, 3, so I just need 4 more. Row 9 is done. This is the direction it looks. That's the bottom of the S, and it curves up. And so there's actually a gap right here where the orange should connect, but it's got like, you know, it's just white right there because of the way that we worked the color change. Well, we're gonna fix that at the end when we're weaving in, and we'll just cover that up in orange and it'll look seamless there. It'll be like if it's connected. But we're not gonna worry about that right now. We're gonna do that later. So for row oh, I said row 9 before. This is row 10. Row 10 has 2 creams, 1 orange, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 creams. For row 11, we're going to start off with 5 creams. One, 2, 3, 4, 5 creams. Next color is going to be 1 orange box. I want to drop my yarn to the front, insert my hook into the next stitch, and I'm going to see where my tail ends are right now. So I have 1 here. I need 2 oranges for this row, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce another orange here, and I'll use this orange later. So I'm going to take my orange skein and I'm just going to pull it from wherever that middle tie is. I can see it, I just got to get to it. And I'm going to add that there. So now I have this orange and I'm adding on a new orange. I'm dropping my orange tail to the front. And now I need a cream. I need 3 creams actually. Okay, so I have this cream here, which I'm going to continue to need for this going back and forth. Then I have this cream up here, which I'm going to continue to need for this up here. So now I need another cream. This is where I'm going to create sort of like a bobbin. I don't actually make the bobbins, but they are very useful, and the bobbin is just when you like wrap up the yarn and you have it there and it doesn't get tangled, and it's a very great idea. I just never really do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one on the top, because there's less creams up here, and I'm just going to pull a long tail, and then I'm going to cut it off. And now I'm going to continue to use this yarn that I just pulled out. I'm going to continue to use that as long as I need it in the top until I run out, and then I'm going to just tie on more yarn. And if you were creating a bobbin, you would just wrap this up a bunch of times and then wrap it around, create like a sort of butterfly thing, and it would be much easier to manage. I'm just leaving mine there. That's how I do it. Now that I have this end free that I trimmed off, this is my working yarn from the ball, I'm going to introduce that to the middle. And I'm just going to keep using it until I need to tie off again. So before I do that, I need to insert my hook into the next stitch. And I'm going to continue. I need 3 creams here. So I have 1, and that's 2. I want to address the orange yarn. I have my first 2 boxes here. My next cream box is going to be right here, and then I'm going to have an orange box after that. And my orange strand is right here. So there are 2 ways you can do it. You can work your box, and then when you get up here, you can grab it and it'll look like this. Or you can fasten off this yarn and just reattach it at the top. So if you're going to pull the yarn up, not that one, but this one down here, if you're going to pull it up, just do it loosely, not too tight. Otherwise it's going to distort the fabric and the stretch. And I'll show you how that looks. Let me finish my cream box here. Oops, I don't know if you saw that, but I did recommend before that you put this down so that you don't get your yarn caught, and that's exactly what happened. That pull right there is because my hook got stuck in there. That's okay, because as you keep working you're not going to notice it, but that's why I recommend to put the yarn down. Alright, so I have 3 here, and I need an orange box. So if you're going to pull this yarn up, you have to yarn. If you put your hook in here and you work over it as you normally would, I'm going to show you real quick. That's how I normally would do it, right? But now I have orange coming through. Well, it's hard to see, but it's right there. So I don't want my orange to show through. So I'm going to insert my hook. Pull the yarn orange in from the top. So this is not how you normally would do it. So you're pulling your yarn up and you're bringing the yarn in from the wrong side. And now the orange is not noticeable at all from the right side. But now you have this tail end that's pulling. And you might not care, and as long as you do it loosely, the fabric will still stretch and stuff. I don't like to see very many pulls. I try to hide them as much as I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just fasten it off so it's cleaner. And before I reattach it, I'm just going to go back to the ball and untangle whatever I have, and I'm going to reattach it. and I made a mistake. I dropped my yarn to the back. I have to drop my yarn to the front so that it's on the same side as everything else. It's just cleaner that way. Have my orange, and now my last box is going to be cream, so I'm going to drop my yarn. I'm going to pick up this cream and I'm going to work it right here. I'm actually going to pick up this. No, I'm not. I'm going to pick up. I'm a bit confused here, but that's just because I'm working this out as I'm going, and I can see here that I have this strand from the last cream that I worked, which I could pull over the same way as the orange, but I also have this cream which I no longer need down here, and I'm not going to pull it across. I'm just going to fasten it off, and I'm going to reattach it up here. Before I do that, I'm going to drop my orange to the front. Drop my tail to the front and work my last box, which is going to be cream. Alright, so I have all these tail ends right here. Some of them I'm working with, some of them I'm not. You can go ahead and weave these in as you go if you're one of those types of people that ends up with the project in the whip bin because you have too many ends and you don't like to do it. That happens to me all the time. It's also cleaner and easier to see your work, but I'm just gonna leave them there, and I'm working this project with you guys. I just have my chart and the pattern that I wrote out, so I'm going to fasten off right along with you as I go along. This is the end of row 11.